Hey guys, Creator Mom. So today, I always want to talk about money. I think the topic of money is so interesting. It's so interesting. It's so multifaceted. Um, you know, money has to do, or like the things that we associate money with. Like if we were to do like one of those, what do they call it, like a spider graph? Like, circle, put money in the middle, and then draw lines out. As to all the things that we like associate with money. Maybe actually I should do that as a little meditative like assignment for myself. What are all the little legs, and what are all the things that I associate money with? I think survival is a big thing that's associated with money in our society, of course, because money is the way we trade. We don't really like trade objects for objects, anymore. Obviously, money is the main resource that we use to trade and do business with and do all our interactions with. And it's such an emotionally charged topic. I was thinking about how money is looked at in the church, going through the church, and what was my experience with money while being in the church. Money and having like objects and prosperity and resources, I think, is seen as like something that you cannot let have your heart. If people ask you for it, that is God testing you to see how, are you willing to give it? Do you love God more than you love money? Which can bring, I feel like, even a more deeper level of confusion to people, because it's like, even though I've given up these ideas about God, there is a remnant, not a remnant, a residue, residual. I think there is a residual effect of these emotions and feelings kind of still lingering around about money. When somebody wants something from you and you don't want to give it to them or let them borrow it, that means you're being stingy, right? You're being stingy with God. It's really strange. And I don't know, I just want to take time in this video to kind of process that, and you can share your thoughts down below too. Because books and books and books and books can be written about money and just its effect upon us and how we think about it. And the books I've been reading are focused mainly on changing my beliefs, changing my perspective, changing my emotional responses around the topic of money. And money is also a very I think it's seen as a societal problem too. There's a lot of negativity surrounding money, which is this thing we all want so badly, so that we can do the things we're so excited about doing. It's just seen as a societal issue. And then who decides how much money you can have? What is a social norm for the amount of money that is okay for you to make? Are you allowed to be a millionaire or a billionaire? Are you allowed to be Joel Osteen? Are you allowed to be the rich person who takes a private jet over to China because you want authentic Chinese food one night? We set ourselves up as the judge over these things. And there's so much emotional tension, and emotional power behind it all. There's offenses, defensive, arguments, debates. If you're rich and you have a lot of money, you have to give your money to this or that. Like, people think that they have the right to tell people who are rich how to spend their money and where to put their money, which I also think is interesting. I was going over the topic of stinginess, and although my inner critic may accuse me of being stingy, I don't accuse other people of being stingy, which is interesting, because really, I don't believe anyone has to give me anything. There's no sense of entitlement, I guess, there, which I know a little healthy entitlement is good, but I don't believe that anybody should have to give anything that they don't want to give. And it's one thing for people to make money or generate money in ways that are harmful to other people. If you're stealing from people, then that's, fucked up. I judge that as being fucked up. If you're making your money through exploitation, then I started thinking about, well, actually, in relation to stinginess, I guess I would say maybe an employer who has some employees and is paying their employees below what should be the minimum, for that job or whatever. Maybe that could probably be considered stingy, like a stingy boss, a stingy employee. And maybe an employer who an employer who doesn't give bonuses. But then again, I think that these are all things that are discerned out and weighed out by the employer, because I don't think giving bonuses is mandatory, but does an employer want to make their employees feel appreciated? What is the relationship there like? But yeah, I guess paying your employee below what they should be being paid, that's probably stingy. Kind of it's kind of where do you draw the line between what is stingy and what is generous? And I think when it comes down to your own personal property and your own personal well-being, that you're really the only judge of that, and you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself to be generous when you feel like being generous, as where the inner critic wants you to be more thinking about the outside God, and is he going to be pleased with your giving? Are you giving cheerfully or begrudgingly? There's a lot of condemnation involved with the topic of money and giving as well. Self-worth is all wrapped up in the topic of money. When you receive money, even when you receive money from your job, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel unworthy? Do you feel bad for receiving any type of money? That's another level of emotion there. Yeah, so I guess it's all tied down to our survival, our basic survival, and also what we feel worthy of receiving. But yeah, in terms of your own personal life, just because people come around asking us for things doesn't mean that we need to give it. And this could be very difficult when you're dealing with people who don't have boundaries, because the way they ask for things, they ask with such entitlement that you feel like you have to give them what they're asking for. That, you know what I'm saying? Because they just they are at home and they have no sense of trepidation or they ask knowing that you're gonna give them what they want, I feel sometimes. But anyways, yeah, just kind of the topic of money. How, who's to say how rich you can be? And why does the word rich have such a bad vibe to it, bad energy attached to it, I feel like. Having more than enough. I mean, I've read in books that there's more than enough wealth and money for everybody, but my heart doesn't feel like that, you know? It doesn't see it yet. It's just like, I want to see it, but I'm just like, I'm more curious about it. Like, but how? Where is it? It just seems so elusive, you know? And then there's a topic of, you know, you have people who work hard all their lives and then they don't have much to show for it, you know, sometimes. So just because somebody's working hard, it doesn't mean they're making a lot or becoming rich, per se. And then you have people who barely work and they're becoming more and more wealthy every day, you know? I feel like there's a lot to figure out, but I'm probably just overcomplicating it with thinking too hard about it. But that's the nature of my mind, because I like to, I don't know, philosophize about things and think about them like that. But yeah, the societal norms is a big thing, I think, when it comes to money. And another thing I think is interesting is nonprofit organizations. Excuse me. I know churches are classified as nonprofit, but I'm talking about nonprofit organizations that depend on grants and donations, but mostly grants from different places, from the state mainly. Like the domestic violence shelter that I stayed at. Every year they have to assess and apply for grants and see what they get accepted for and yada yada. And it seems like the people who want to do good, like they take on being the CEO of these nonprofit organizations, have to struggle so hard to, it's like pulling teeth, right? Like they have to struggle so hard, like getting this money for like this good mission that they want to do. It's just so interesting. I worked for, when I graduated college, I worked for a nonprofit organization. They're doing pretty well though. It's called Advanced Housing. They're doing good, and they paid decent too. Like they paid, well, this was back in 2007. 2006, 2007. When I graduated college and started working for this nonprofit mental health organization, they were paying me maybe $32,000 or something like that a year. That's probably not like a lot. I think it was a good amount for back in 2006. I think it was good. It was okay. You know, I remember in my mind splitting up my two checks in my mind, like my one check, and then by the time they take taxes out, it kind of sucks. But I was only probably making a little over $1,600 a month, maybe $1,700, and it was like, and that was full time. And I would use, in my mind, I would use one check for the rent, and then the other check would be for, like, you know, bills and whatever other stuff, you know, food, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about my relationship with money throughout time. And when I got into the church, you know, things got pretty interesting with money. You know, with, the topic of tithing and just because first you have to tithe. Then you also have to give extra, you know, like give to the homeless ministry or give to like other ministries or give to the building fund, which was happening probably till now. I bet the building fund has been collecting money for 20 years, probably. And I think they're still in the same building. Then showing generosity outside of that also, just outside of the church. And I remember this guy who used to come to our church here and there. He wasn't planted. So he was like a rebel. But he told me, he was like, you don't have to tithe to this church. He's like, you can give your money to whoever you want to give, and give your tithe or give your giving. And I was like, what? I was so convinced that about the tithe and about, what my pastor was saying about tithing. I trusted him. I saw him as having some integrity. And he believed what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, people believe what they're preaching. Like, at least this guy did, Pastor Jason. He believed what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could tell he wasn't trying to rob anybody. He was preaching what he felt like the Bible was saying, what he felt like God was speaking to him. He was being authentic to himself. But anyways, so then I was like, wow. I was kind of offended at first. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't just give wherever. You have to tithe to your church, your local church. Which, in a sense, if you're going to a church and you're receiving benefit, or you're going anywhere and you're receiving benefit, it is nice to give unto the organization that you're a part of. You know what I'm saying? There's no problem with that, especially if you're receiving benefit. Then you kind of give back in generosity because you love and appreciate all that they're giving to you too. So it kind of can be like symbiotic, I think the only problem comes into where people feel pressured to give. That's a problem. And the way the church is always preaching giving, you just automatically feel pressured to give. You know what I'm saying? Especially with all this rhetoric about, you feel like God is judging you now because of what they're saying. And then they say you can't outgive God. It's ridiculous. I think what it does is it takes away from people's trust and intuition in themselves about what they should give and when. And it makes it a systematic thing outside of them that's saying, oh, here's the system. You have to give this and you have to give that. So it doesn't leave it as a choice up to the person. And I believe that giving is a really personal thing, but they make you think that it's mandatory and that if you don't tithe, you're robbing God. That's really serious things to say to people. They're literally putting people under condemnation when it comes to the topic of money. I know I've heard of a lot of wealthy and rich people giving to charities and stuff too, but they're doing it because they believe in it. You know what I'm saying? They believe in the giving, how that causes something about the flow of money, because money is always flowing. Money is not stagnant. It flows in, it flows out, it flows in, it flows out. So giving to charity helps that flow. Also, tax write-offs, obviously. So what though? Hey, the charities are getting money, so why not? You know what I'm saying? Everybody wins, right? I don't know. But it seems so elusive. I feel like I have a lot of work to do around money. I don't know. Or maybe I don't. Who knows? But anyways, I think that's all the thoughts I feel like sharing about money right now. Yeah, just like money and sharing. And just share when you want to share. I think that we don't trust ourselves to share when we feel like sharing. We think we should. It's just like, do what you feel like doing, But yeah, money is definitely very tied to our survival. And this is why, obviously, a lot of feelings and emotions of stress, fear, and anxiety over money occur. Because they're like, of course we have to feel this way about money. My very fucking survival depends upon it. But then apparently a lot of those feelings are what's wrong, can be an issue, too much fear and worry and stress. So something about how money is repelled, I don't know, by these energetic emotions. I don't know. It's just like I read about money being energy, and it all, like, it kind of makes sense to me, but it also all seems very elusive to me. Um, and I can hear the type A control freaks out there saying, just work for money. It's not that hard. You just fucking work for money. And you know, it's just like, okay. I know. We all know if you work a job, you can get some money. Okay. Like, we know that. Jesus. We're trying to go beyond that a little bit, you know, because the fact of the matter is, we don't want to break our backs for money. We want to be in a flow with money, in a good energetic flow and a good vibe with money, right? Like, some people actually don't want to live miserable lives surrounding money. Like, some people actually want to live lives of peace and ease. And I understand if you don't feel like that's possible for you. That's okay. You can stay there in misery around money and complaining about, you know, money or whatever. It's okay. But, you know, not everybody wants that. And we have to stop pushing what we think is right on other people. We do that a lot, you know. I think we do that because we want people to experience what we experience, but, like, it just doesn't work out like that. So, all right. Have a great day.